The Smooth Breakfast presents the headline, the stories, the view, in-depth analysis, national current affairs. Okay. Freshly pressed on Smooth 98.1.
Love music, love life. You're welcome to Freshly Pressed, a part of Smooth Breakfast right here on Smooth 98.1. And this is a part of the show where we have detailed review of the news from Nigerian dailies. And today, 27th of August 2025, from CBN ordering banks, fintechs, firms to make GPS tracking mandatory for POS terminals, to the Senate urging Nigerians to return to farm in order to solve hunger problem, to the news about Abuja Kaduna train derailing and custom handing over expired pharmaceuticals worth 3.8 billion naira, and more. We're ready to talk about it all right here on Freshly Pressed. And you can be a part of it as well. What you need to do is have our number saved on WhatsApp so that you can send your messages. And the WhatsApp line is 0911 999 0981. Again, 0911 999 0981. You can also join us live on YouTube, where we're currently streaming at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. At Smooth 981 FM Lagos. My name is Oluwaseun Olusegun. And joining me this morning, riding solo, is Lakunle Yusuf. Good morning.
Good morning, Oluwaseun. Good morning, everyone, wherever you are hearing us. A mixed match of pleasant, not so pleasant, and unpleasant news this morning. But we are Nigerian people. We know how to get over all those things. We will survive.
Will you stand in for Divo and do a sort of Eku greeting? So Eku, what are we doing today?
Okay. Eku, new directive from CBN.
That said, let's get right into it, starting with the one coming from Premium Times. The Central Bank of Nigeria has ordered banks, fintech companies, as well as other licensed payment operators to install GPS tracking on all point of sale terminals, that's POS, in a bid to tighten oversight of electronic transactions.
Okay, so for those of us in the industry of banking, financial services, fintechs, HR techs, all the techs that you can think of, this possibly, and of course the security people, of course. So this is probably one of the pleasant news that is coming in Nigeria today. So of course we know the idea that I can be a point of sale terminal operator. I could be living in Abeokuta this morning, and I'll just up it and relocate to Akure, and I'll still be using the same terminal, like business as usual. So now CBN says that's not going to happen henceforth. So all POS terminals must be geolocated and tied to a particular spot. And anything outside of 10 meters of that place, any transaction outside of 10 meters of the geolocation will be flagged. Anyone that is not geotagged will be barred from from processing payments. The implication of that means that if you like, relocate to anywhere, even if it's 1 naira, it will be flagged. And after some time, you could have visitors from any of the security agencies to actually verify who you are and why you are moving around. Of course, we know where, without saying it, we know where what this is targeted at. It helps in all ways to put an identity to provide the evidences for all transactions that has happened. And then the directive didn't even stop there. It then also says that that all the PSPs, that's the payment service, PTSPs, payment terminal services providers and operators, all of them should also improve their system and adopt the ISO 200-2020 by 31st October. I like the idea that they have put a timeline to it, that everybody must be compliant by 31st October, and inspection will start from 28th. Of course, inspection means that every time you default, CBN gives you a big fine. So the ball is now in the court of the PTSPs, PSSOs, and all of them to ensure that they comply with all of these things and ensure that they capture the identities of the payer, the payee, the merchants, agents, and all the transaction metadata. I hope that this also helps to improve security around payments, identify who is making what payments and who is receiving what and where. And I hope that this helps our security agencies as well in tracking all these illegal and illicit funds that we hear happen over these terminals.
Yes, indeed. And we hope it discourages in the other quarters as well. Moving on to the one coming from Vanguard, the Academic Staff Union of Universities says the union is prepared for the mother of all strikes until their demands regarding the 2009 agreement with the federal government are implemented. Are you there?
I'm here. I struggle every time I hear ASU strike, university, mother, anything. Anybody who's listening to me on this program, I've spoken about strikes, know my position about strikes, that I am not a fan of any strike in whatever form. Having said that, now let's look at it this way. A child that was born in 2009, how old would that be now? 24, 25, 24. That means the person would have graduated from the university. Okay, let me say, related to what this strike is about, I would not proudly say that maybe I was one of the first beneficiaries of the strikes of Nigerian academics sometime many years ago. And we stayed at home for about a year that year, and it's upset a lot of stuff for us then. Just 1 year, it was unbelievable, it was unprecedented, yeah. And then from then on, it became a perennial thing. Until 2009, there was finally that. Then the idea was that they are not even listening to them. Now in 2009, there was an agreement they sat down, both parties signed, and since then, 24 years ago, the
16,
government.
you mean?
Is it 16 now?
Yes.
2009, yeah, that's 16. Pardon me. My arithmetic is somehow this morning. So 16 years ago, so they've sat down and they had an agreement in that time. And between then and now, both parties have never agreed that they have fully implemented that agreement. Now, this is 2025. I am so certain that whatever is in that 2009 agreement will be so obsolete compared to what is happening now. Okay, so what are they asking for? The universities are asking for full autonomy. They are asking for improved conditions of services. And since that 2009, we've had 4 or 5 presidents. We've had at least 7 ministers of education. We've had at least 3 different VCs of each of these schools, right? One of the points of these things that I find a problem with in ASU's demand is this full autonomy thing they are asking for. One is that, so what then happens when you have the full autonomy? What do you want to do with it? You are asking for full autonomy and you're asking for government to fully fund you. You have to choose one of the two. You can't have both. You cannot have me put money in something and then say that I don't have an idea or I don't demand for accountability for how you spend the money. Look at the case where we are today, a case in study, a university in Nigeria today. Since 2011, they've not produced an internal audited report because their internal auditor went blind in this country. So how does that encourage? Isn't that an excuse for the government to say, if you don't account for the one I give you, I can't give you more? That's one side. Then the other side of it again, for me, is that maybe one of the things that we have done that is long overdue for a change is this idea that education should be free at all levels. I have been a beneficiary of that, yes. Thank God I did benefit from it. But at some point, like they say, you can't be doing the same thing the same way every time and expect a different result. I think we have reached a point where we have to review that policy that education should be free at all levels. Today, we are already paying millions to keep our children in primary and secondary school. So why should university be different? Right? It's people are going to be angry with this statement I'm making, right? But that is the reality of where we are. It's either we say to ourselves that the government takes over 100% the basic education in primary and secondary school, where every primary and secondary school will be free. And then every parent have that 18 or 12-year window to save for university education for their children. Something has to give. We can't keep the status quo and expect to get something different, either from the teachers or from the government itself. Even the teachers themselves, I am so certain you go to some of the universities, the quality of instructions that they get. Some university students don't even have access to internet in their schools. They don't have computers to work with. Their mates all over the world have access to today's research, today's information about what they are learning. Our own are still learning from textbooks that were written in the 70s and the 80s. That does not meet what we want. Even our lecturers, what exposure do they have to these modern day and new things we are talking about? Look at a lot of the misinformation. What the university environment communities should be driving in Nigeria. We have left it for social media influencers to be driving, and we get a lot of misinformation about everything and anything. I mean, and they've been striking since 2009, and there's no result from it. Why do you keep striking? So I feel so passionate about it. I feel so I pity the students themselves. Also, you enter university and then you don't know when you are graduating. It has driven so many parents to face the private university at greater cost to them than anybody else. And then government is owing salaries, promotion arrears, and so on and so. So government has to be intentional. They have to show good faith. Government is a continuum. It doesn't matter who signed the agreement. If you sign the agreement, honor it for crying out loud. Then you can then make your own demands of them, because unto whom much is given, much is expected. Isn't that what it is? You can't expect the output from this book and not put input. Just the same way you cannot not put input and expect an output. So government has to do its own part. The universities have to do their own part. And without that, this matter of striking and striking will not go away. And as it is always the children, our children who are in these schools that will suffer. And then this is where us, the parents, also have to come in and ensure that when next people are campaigning, we are making the welfare, the education of our children a very important item in our demands of their campaigns.
Join the conversation by sending your WhatsApp messages to 0911 999 0981. Again, 0911 999 0981. You can join us on YouTube as well at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Ade from Lagos says, "Good morning, crew. There's a saying, if you want to destroy a nation, destroy education. This is what the government has done and doesn't value education, but commercialize education by increasing school fees and giving students loan, which is a low-grade mind idea. Same free education that benefited in time of Awolowo that made them what they are today. Also, the removal of subsidy affected many parents that they couldn't send many kids to school. Look at tragedy of JAMB and how WAEC, 38%, look at more than 100 million out of school children. 100 million? No. Highest IDPs, but this government loves to breed. Okay. Mr. Ajayi Oloniloa from Magudo GRE Sherry says, "Good morning. President Tinubu must keep to his promise on assuming office that tertiary academic calendar will no longer be disrupted because of ASU strike. Hence, this looming strike must be avoided at all cost." We move over to this one coming from The Guardian. The Federal Operations Unit Zone A of the Nigerian Customs Service has handed over 3 trucks loaded with expired pharmaceutical product valued at 3.8 billion naira to the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control. And the question starts with, why are they handing them over? Why not destroy them immediately? But your thought, Lakunle?
Normally what we heard before was that when customs sees anything as contraband, they would destroy them. But I don't know what has changed in that perspective that they are now handing it over. But for a moment, let's digress a bit from this story directly, but we stay on course of it. What's in the mind of a businessman deliberately goes to another country and harvests their expired drugs and brings it to his own country for his own people to take to cure their ailments? Let's even start from there. Now, let's look at the amount of money that is involved. What in the world would 3.8 billion naira would have done somewhere else in Nigeria? Maybe if we invested it in growing a pharmaceutical company in Nigeria to manufacture these drugs itself, right? So even when we start from that perspective, what is in a man's mind that thinks because I want to make money, I will go and buy expired drugs and bring for my own countrymen to take? There's something really, really, really wrong with the minds of people in this country. That's one. Two, we have pharmaceutical companies in Nigeria who are struggling to produce stuff. Why do we give licenses to people to bring in drugs that ordinarily we can produce in Nigeria without advertising for any of them? Paracetamol is being made in Nigeria. Why do we allow imports of paracetamol into Nigeria? We make methylated spirits in Nigeria. I'm just even talking about these little ones. Why do we allow importing methylated spirits into Nigeria, for example? Now we're talking about, now look at the drugs that were found in the boxes that they said they were expired. Codeine syrup, tramadol, amlodipine, I'm assuming is an antibiotic. And you know what it is to take antibiotic on its own, even when it's not expired. Now to talk of expired antibiotics again, then they have a milk oil flavor and Viagra. I think that should be a brand of Viagra. I think that should be. Now, look at the kind of drugs that they are importing into Nigeria that are expired. Now, NAFDAC's role is to flag these drugs and to see if they exist on the shelves anywhere else already. And we need to be very, very careful about how we handle this thing. Now you have seized the drugs. Who is the importer of the drugs? There will be a label on it where you seized it that it is meant for so and so destination to be received by so and so person. Who is that person? Why are we just holding the drugs? Why are we not going to arrest and announcing the person that is importing these things? If we don't do that, we have seized this, next batch is going to come again. And I want to also believe that for as many of these that we have stopped, that the customer has stopped, maybe 10 times of it has escaped them and has got into the country, right? So I am not so certain that there are not many, multiples of these expired products that they seize that are already in circulation. So, but for me, the three things: the mind of the Nigerian to do this to ourselves. Two, the importing of drugs that we produce in Nigeria. Three, why are we not arresting the people? Because they have names, they have labels. Why are we not arresting them? Why are we just seizing the things and prosecuting them? Until we do these three things, right, I do not think that this matter will stop. But thank you to Custom for at least stopping this one and making us know that this. So if you are going to buy any of these drugs, please be sure that you are buying a non-expired one. The names of the drugs are here: Viagra, Royal Tablet 225, CSC codeine syrup, Really Extra, Tramadol, Amlodipine, milk oil flavor, and Viagra. I think the two of them are those are the drugs that were listed in this report as part of the expired seized drugs.
Thank you. And it's important that that these things are actually destroyed, that it does not find its way back to the market. By the way, amlodipine is a beta blocker, which is supposed to help in the treatment or the management of high blood pressure.
Okay, thank you. The name sounded like it's an antibiotic, the pin at the end of it.
I understand. Yes. All right. We'll take some messages and we move on to the next story from Vanguard. From Barrister Dan Ukuda from Igondo. He said, "Good morning, the crew. ASU should adopt a better option to resolve industrial dispute with government than this perennial resort to strikes all the time." Chidozie says, "I wonder if this 2009 agreement will ever be implemented by politicians who use lecturers and professors to rig elections when they say there is no honor among thieves. These are some of the implications." Moving on to the Vanguard now, a passenger train heading from Abuja to Kaduna derailed on Tuesday morning, causing several coaches to topple and sparking panic among travelers. I think my concern about this story is the part of the report that says that the Abuja Kaduna line is known for frequent breakdowns, with an axle issue disrupting services last week. Please go on, Lakunle.
Okay, so what you just said now is different from derailing. So if there's an engine failure, the train stops on the tracks, and then, however, they come get another whatever and tow it to either end. A train has two engine heads, one in front, one at the back. So the train does not actually turn around when it gets to a destination. It just, the one that pulls it to that destination B just becomes the auxiliary, and the one that was auxiliary when it was coming from A becomes the engine to drive it back to destination A where it originated from. Okay, so ordinary is highly unlikely that the two will fail. So if one fails, worst case scenario, the second one will drive it back to where it was coming from, right? So that's that. Then two, now that we hear, this is the first time, maybe to my knowledge, I don't know if anyone has happened or in recent times or any time before, that the train carriages will actually derail and fall off the tracks, as it were. I mean, there are only two things that could cause that. One, train was overspeeding and the speed of the train became uncontrollable. Two, the tracks shifted. The most probable cause, without it being mentioned in this thing, is that the tracks had been tampered with. We've had stories all over the country. We've seen people on social media put videos of train tracks in various parts of Nigeria where vandals have gone to remove parts of the tracks. They remove some of them and so on. So this most likely will be what may have happened in this case. And then this comes back again to what we always say about, it's not enough to put an infrastructure in place. How do you secure them? So the concept that it is nobody's property is what bred this thing. And then people use excuses of hunger. People are hungry. That's why they go and vandalize rail tracks and put millions of people's life at risk. At least this report has not said that there was any fatality in this, but we thank God for that. But it could have been worse. They said that it was just shortly after it took off. So it possibly the train may not have reached maximum speed as at the time it happened. Because I'm trying to imagine if it was at maximum speed and this derailment happened, it's highly unlikely that any of the carriages would have survived the derailment. Everything would have run. What we heard that people got out and scrambled to safety amid the confusion. The job of Nigeria Railway Corporation, it doesn't stop at putting people in the train, or we have to secure the rail lines. There are technologies for securing tracks, which once there's a breach in any of the tracks, from a control, you can know, even if you can't catch the people who did it, you can know that there's a breach and you can immediately move to site to fix it. These are the kind of things that we need to start to think about putting in place on our rail tracks. Most importantly, we need to stop people from vandalizing public utilities. Some people have advocated for capital punishment for vandals. That's the word we use for them. We have words for every type of criminality. We have terrorists, we have bandits, we have armed robbers, we have vandals, right? So for the vandals in this case, some people have advocated for the death, for the capital punishment for them. I am not an advocate of capital punishment, but at some point you would in your mind think that, okay, what can you do to make people not do this? Because, okay, so now one person, two, three people have gone to vandalize the rail tracks and have put the lives of about 2,500 people in danger. So where do you draw the line? What is the what is the commensurate punishment you need to give to those 5 people? So the people who are advocating for capital punishment have a point over my position. But you see, we need to put a stop to this thing. How we're going to do it, the idea that we are going to deploy men to be monitoring lines is so archaic, nobody should even think about it. We need to deploy technology to prevent these things from happening.
Indeed, because according to the National Bureau of Statistics, 183 derailments were recorded between 2020 and 2022 alone, with 57 incidents in 2020, 61 in 2021, and 65 in 2022. And in January 2019, there was the derailment that was even killing 1 passenger. In May 2024, Kaduna-bound train derailed near Jere that was disrupting services for days. And later, in June 2024, another Abuja-Kaduna passenger train left the tracks with 3 coaches tumbling, which was in a video that went viral on social media. So we need to fix this.
So if we've had this number of derailments, what is the Nigerian Railway Corporation waiting for again? How much more equipment, infrastructure, people have to suffer fatalities and losses before we fix it? I think it is much more now a problem that the Nigerian Railway Corporation needs to fix.
Thank you. Moving on, we'll take some messages before we have the last round of stories this morning. Fabian from Ekpe says, good morning, everyone. Amlodipine is not a beta blocker, but a calcium channel blocker. Oh, thank you. Most drugs are not produced in Nigeria, which is why they are so expensive. The customs should focus on speaking less, work with other agencies to get the kingpins, and let the results do the talking. Chidozie says, I saw images of the accident scenes and the quality of the rails looks like something from 1632. Looks so old and weak. Joseph Maynier says, the idea of using geolocation for POS merchants, very laudable, but the negligent and nonchalant approach of using SIM cards registration to curb terrorism, kidnapping, etc., same will happen to this process because it's going to cost the operators to implement the software on the devices and their network.
Don't let us preempt what may happen. Let's give benefit of the doubt that it will work. I mean, let's be positive about that. At least we are thinking about solutions now. We're not leaving everything open to anywhere below face, like we say on the streets.
Gilbert Mr. from Festac says, on the ASU proposed strike, the ASU strike of June 1994 to January 1995 was the tonic the federal government should have adopted to draw a master plan to end further strikes in our tertiary institutions. We can learn from the developed world how tertiary institutions avoid strikes. Emeka from Ikeja says, Abuja train derailed and coaches fell off. We hope that activities of terrorists and kidnappers will not find their way on our rail tracks. I smell sabotage. Well, on a final note, because we're almost out of time, we'll take this one, and that is about Anambra Assembly.
No, return to farm.
Return to farm. All right, we'll do that one last then. Return to farm, solve hunger problem. Senate urges Nigerians, and this is from the chairman, Senate Committee on Industry, Francis Fadaunsi, who said Nigerians should return to farming and produce food in large quantities so that the current hunger ravaging the country can be dealt with.
It's so uninteresting to hear people at this level talk about things like this. So, the question we should ask Senator Francis Fadaunsi is, since he's been in the Senate, how many bills or how many proposals has he made in the Senate to make farming easier for people who want to farm in Nigeria? It is not a matter of talking, it's a matter of doing the do. we've had so many programs in Nigeria. We have the Operation Feed the Nation, the Green Revolution, all of it. I'm sure this senator was probably in secondary school or university when Operation Feed the Nation started. Did he do anything when they were telling him to go to farm? He's now his turn to tell some people to go to farm. Why doesn't he lead the action, go to his village and start a farm and say, I have started the farm, I'm helping to feed this. Is it we just say a lot of talking. We do a lot of talking about these things. The people who are doing the work are asking you, they are making proposals on how to make their life easier in doing the job, but we're not seeing it. The government, so a one tractor is costing some hundreds of millions. How many people in Nigeria can afford to buy one tractor? Even if they form cooperative, how many years would they save to be able to buy one? These are the kind of things. We used to have stair assembly plants in Bauchi in Nigeria before that were assembling farm implements parts. They were doing assembly of tractors and stuff. What happened to it? Why did it die? So the basic things we're talking about, farm implement, we used to have agri extension people working for government in those days. Where are they today? The market and the commodity marketing boards, what happened to them? So the ones that the problem in Nigeria is not really the farming itself, minus security issues that we have with it now. The problem is with what happens to the produce that comes out of the farms every day. More than 50% of them waste before it gets to the market. I think that's so it's the complete chain is what we should be looking at. Look at what Lagos State government is doing this today. They have a hub where they intend to buy products off the market in the times of plenty and store and then sell at the time of little, So those are the kind of thinking and action that we should be seeing. It's not just enough to say return to farm. To run to farm to go and do what? With what and how? I mean, so those are the things that we expect to be hearing from the people in positions that can influence things that are happening around us. And I think that he should also is from Osun State, is from the same party as his governor. Between the two of them, they should be able to make Osun more productive in terms of farming by making policies that will encourage Osun citizens and indigenes to go and farm.
Thank you. On the final note, I'll take this one from DG on YouTube, who says capital punishment so far hasn't served its purpose as a deterrent. Yet armed robbery is a capital punishment crime, but not banditry, terrorism, kidnapping, etc. Derailing criminals will end as same. For now, we're done with Freshly Pressed, but tomorrow we'll be back again 7:30 right here on Smooth Breakfast on Smooth 98.1. Thank you, Lakunle, for being the solo champion this morning. We're grateful for your time.
Thank you, Oluwaseun, for having me. And thank you for everyone for listening.
You can find him on Twitter or X at Lakunle70. Has your handle changed?
No.
Great. And you can find this stream on YouTube at Smooth 91 FM Lagos at 15 minutes past 8 o'clock. It will be the locker room with Tega. My name is Oluwaseun Olusegun.
The headline. The stories.
Thank you very much.